Hey, what's going on, y'all? My name is Brandon Jinx Jenkins. I want to thank you guys for joining us here for a Genius Perspective presented by Hennessy V.S.O.P. Today, I'm joined by a couple of my favorite creatives to talk about their creative process, what they do, but more importantly, how they do what they do and why they do what they do. So I'm joined by Raven, Punch, JP, but I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Raven B. Verona, known, I guess, culturally and on the internet as Ravy B. I am a photographer, born and raised in the Bronx, currently living in Los Angeles.
I'm Punch, president of Top Dog Entertainment, also part of the collective Room Full of Mirrors. Just happy to be here with you guys.
And my name is Jorge Peniche, also known as JP, from Los Angeles, California, by way of Mexico City.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for joining me here today. This is like some of my favorite people. I've either watched your work, heard your work, bought your work. So that you guys joining me here today is like, it's a treat for me.
So I'm excited. I mean, I know we haven't met, but I feel like I know you online, and the same goes for you through your work.
Reciprocated, the same thing.
I am super excited to be here, and thank you guys for having me.
Well, we all know that you guys have many different traits, but specifically you have to have crafts that people understand and know you for. But I want to ask you, we'll start with you, Raven. How do you tell people, like if a kid comes up and asks you what you do, how do you tell them? How do you describe what you do?
I think on the simplest level, I say I'm a photographer because that's what I am. I obviously feel like I'm an artist overall. I'm a creative. I am a storyteller. I love to build connections with people off art and off photography and off images, but in the simplest sense, I'm a photographer. So I take pictures of people. I like to make people feel good through my work, and I like to make people look good.
Punch, what about you?
I think she summed it up when she said storyteller, because that's what we're doing, no matter what the medium is, whether it's coming up with a rollout plan or shooting a film or photography or making music, like we're telling stories.
Yeah.
I jokingly tell people I'm a professional day laborer, and anyone from LA that knows that, beloved day laborers take on every and any task. I say that with pride, not to knock anybody, but professional in the sense that I get an opportunity to wear so many different hats and trusted with so many different responsibilities. One day I might be a photographer, another day I might be doing e-commerce. Just as of recent, we did Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and that's what my team leans on me to specialize in doing, because I've been doing e-commerce since I was 12 years old on eBay. Other days I'm practically every day, that's my bread and butter. I'm a graphic artist. At one point, I was a journalist. I used to interview and write stories about artists. And then most importantly, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
And that's the most responsible task I have.
I mean, you guys are wearing so many different hats, but Raven, you said something, and you all have used the word in all your descriptions as artists. When did you start to talk about yourself and consider yourself an artist? Like actually take on that title. What does that mean to you?
I think it's come for me over time. I'm 31. I started doing photography. Like I was introduced as photographer when I was a kid, just like using a Kodak or disposables with my mom. She kind of documented everything. And then when I was in high school, I took a photography class. I realized I liked it. In my early 20s, it was like my side job and a hobby. And I was like, okay, I'm a photographer. Like I'm a part-time photographer. And then I was like, I'm gonna quit my job. I'm a full-time photographer. And then I think working for myself and just doing photography, I was like, I want more and I want to do more. And I don't think that there's only one medium for me sometimes. Like, I think that there's like artistry in cooking. There's artistry in like collaborating with people. Like, who knows, I might want to do a movie one day. I just think that it's about expression. So that's why I feel like over time I've considered myself an artist, because I don't want to just box myself into like, this is the only thing I do, because I think that, like we've said, storytelling is so big. So it could be anything. I'm just trying to tell my story, and I feel like photography is like the core of it, but if it like grows, it grows.
Yeah, I mean, Punch, you kind of described yourself really quickly, and Jorge, you said so many different titles, but there's a lot of artistry in just what you do, even in the support of it, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is being a journalist, whether it is rolling with marketing plans, coming up with films. Do you guys consider yourselves in that title, like in the role you're in, an artist when you're doing these other things?
Yeah, absolutely. Because to me, like Raven said again, it's about the expression. I mean, that's what the art is to me, is expressing. So yeah, it's just another way, another medium of getting those thoughts and ideas and creative way of thinking out.
Are there misconceptions about what you do sometimes? Like, especially, I feel like a lot of us know you from like maybe some of the executive role. We hear president, we're like, okay, we see you.
Ask you that.
Yeah, right.
Want to jump in? I was like, what?
We see you at a desk. We imagine yourselves like the platinum plaques behind you.
Right.
It's like signing checks. But there's to be in the industry of art, you have to have a little bit of art in you, and you have very much art. Besides the fact that you're like a recording artist, you're working with artists. Yeah. Are there misconceptions about what you do?
Yes, it's a lot of it. A lot of misconceptions.
What's one you hear a lot, and then you have to find a way to combat that?
That I hold artists' albums back.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just look at it as you need a face, an enemy, or somebody to blame for whatever the issue is. And, I take that on. It's an art to me taking that on.
It's a whole way that you dance with that, which is crazy.
For sure. Because for me, I'd rather take off the pressure from the artists and let them do their thing and be creative while I'm being creative combating these issues.
I feel like this is our first time meeting, but I've known you online. And to add to that, I think what's cool is that like you're having to combat that, but to me, it's like you have a direct relationship with your artist. And I think like that's really impressive. And it's something that I feel like you're one of the people in our generation and in this time that was like, okay, like it's not just like you're a president and you're in an office by yourself signing checks. Like you're the person talking to the artist. We see you like with them, and like if they're going through something, like you're in the comments right there with them, like advocating for them and talking for them and representing them. And I think that that's really cool because it also like, it grows like, I think for us as creatives, like our brand is a lot bigger than just what we do, right? Like it's about like who we are. So I feel like it's nice to see you, because then it's like, there might be kids like, oh, I want to be like Punch. Like I want to be the president because I'm creative, but I don't necessarily want to make the music, but I want to be able to be in all the elements of the creative part, which is, I think, really cool.
I think that's another layer in the connection that I have with the artists I work with, because they view me as an artist as well. So they know I understand the struggle from top to bottom. So when they're creating the song, they know they can come and talk to me. And I understand and be able to relate to them on that level, as well as when we putting it out and the whole business part comes into play. I think that's one of the benefits I have in even calling myself an artist.
Jorge, I feel like in your role, even you mentioned like graphic design, it's a lot of what Punch and Raven is saying. There's a lot of artistic translation has to come through, right? You have to take someone's vision, take someone's brand, their identity, their person, and translate this into whether it's a visual idea or a business idea. What have been some of the things that have benefited you in that process of translation, in that process of taking this person's idea and their art and showing into the world in a different way?
I think probably the example that's easily pointed out that's almost synonymous with my brand and my name has been working with Nipsey.
Yeah.
And birthing the Marathon brand with him and sitting alongside, a genius, that knew more than, your average bear about branding, and was super invested in branding, and as much as he was in his music, and that's like a rare situation that happens with artists. Usually you're fully immersed in all music, and you hand off the business aspect and branding to someone else. But he was very hands-on, and from 2010 when we started really like digging in and birthing the Marathon concept, and the latter part of 2010, which was like around November. So just getting to learn the psyche of an artist, and specifically Nipsey, on how he thought and what his mission was, and how important his visual representation was, to complement what he was saying in audio form. I think prior to that, so much focus had been in, just one aspect, one slice of the pie, of Nipsey, because people were very familiar with that slice of the pie and knew how to capitalize or exploit it, right? Because there was many examples prior to us, that were successful in that regard, right? Right. West Coast, LA, from a neighborhood, right? And that's one part of it, but even the guys prior to him, there's just so much other things that, you could highlight and expose. And there's so much humanity that, would open up a whole different lane for artists. And that's ultimately what it did for Nipsey. His decision to do the Marathon after coming out with a trilogy of mixtapes called Bullets Ain't Got No Names, that series was important. Because that series had to establish, like, this is where I'm from, these are my circumstances, and these are the stories, that I really lived. Moving forward, I've gotten exposed to more things. You know, I've gotten to travel.
Yeah.
I've always been, you know, a smart guy, even in whatever circumstances that I was in, or that it might still be in at the moment. You saw an evolution of a person. He's like, man, when I go to the shows, you know, like the people that are coming to my shows, those are my people, but some of people just want to bring, you know, ruckus and want to bring problems, and that, you know, as a businessman is not gonna, you know, allow me to progress. So you have the Marathon mixtape come out, and still a lot of the real street shit is all the authentic shit that's at the core of it, which is the most important thing for any artist. But then there's also a messaging there that is a lot more universal. It's something about applying yourself. It's about setting long-term goals. It's about not letting up. So from the visual side, on the photography side, you know, we were very intentional with what we wanted to do, you know? No longer what, you know, because I remember he told me, he's like, man, they got, you know, my website, the label had my website. I go to my website and it's me and bullet casings, you know, flying out, you know, and that's like, that's cliche, and that's not what I'm trying to push, you know, because I don't want to glamorize that, you know. If I talk about it in my music, it's because it's something real, you know, and it's a perspective that, you know, is authentic to my story and to a lot of people, obviously in LA with the gang aspect, because it's the origin, but in another, you know, any ghetto USA. So that, for us, you know, with the photography, he wanted photos that were uncontrived, so we did a form of photojournalism, right? We leaned on references, you know, probably one of the best photojournalism was, you know, Life magazine. The Life magazine logo itself is what, you know, aesthetically, you know, birthed and helped influence, and we borrowed from for the Marathon type. You know, it's just like a Franklin Gothic. We fixed the kerning on it, the height, we know, with the red bar. So we led with that. And then all the photos of the campaign from 2010 moving forward were all shot on film, because all of my, you know, counterpart or contemporaries were all shooting digital, right? And, you know, they're both equally as good, but we wanted, you know, visually to be a little bit different, you know? And personally, I preferred, you know, the look of black and white film over digital at the time. Now digital has done some great things, so it's just a matter of aesthetics, and different, you know, scenarios call for different, you know, mediums.
Now you mentioned, when you said the Marathon logo and Life logo, I don't know how, like, I felt it. I've never actually articulated it and been like, this is one-to-one, this is where it's from. But the way that you communicate that, and it's a part of his evolution, right? Like, you took your skill sets and your belief system and applied it to where he wanted to go. Punch, it makes me think about, you have a slew of artists that we watched evolve in front of us. I remember TDE, when we first were like, for whatever reason in music, we were obsessed with the rap crew. Like, we believe that this is the way it's supposed to be when we first introduced the artists. But we watched them all, the people we've added to the label, and those artists all jump out and evolve over time. In the role that you're in, how do you sort of embrace and push artistic integrity, especially when your artists have all these ideas and places they want to go, but there's a public that has an idea of who they are and says, you're going to be like this?
I mean, we push honesty. You know what I mean? Like, we got to be true to what we feeling and what we thinking, like, and what we saw and where we come from. So, because to me, the public can tell the difference. So authenticity and just being honest is the main thing we push. So that's not even a difficult thing. Like, if everybody's following one trend, if it's not honest to what we're doing, then we're not doing it.
I want to ask everybody here this. You guys can jump in when you want. Does the public know what they want? And what I mean by that is, like, okay, that's it. How much do you trust the audience or consider them when you're making the things you're making?
Trust them as far as what, to like it?
Some people make things like, this isn't gonna, they're thinking about the audience and they're telling themselves like they have to meet the audience where they're at, right? Or the audience is a big part of their equation. And some people are like, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And then there's all the space in between those two bookends. So I'm asking, sort of like, when you're making the art you're making, how much are you considering the audience and how much are you just doing what you want to do? Or is there some marriage of both of those ideas?
I think I can say visually, I don't know, it depends how I measure it, right? Like, if we're talking about social media, I think it's an ongoing conversation with photographers. Like, the stuff that we like or that we put up because of algorithms or things don't get any likes. But if you post a celebrity, if you post an artist, if you post something with a brand, it might, you know, skyrocket. And then you have this, like, internal dilemma, like, what kind of art should I be making? I kind of feel like I stray away from it. I post what I like. I also post my personal stuff. I post what I care about. And, like, I could do a solo project and it get no likes. I'm still gonna post it because I really enjoy it. And I can post something with the artist and it get 20,000 likes. And I'm like, cool, I didn't love that, but it's of them and you know, maybe I liked it or I had to put it up. But I think at the same time, it's more for me like what's inspiring me, because a lot of times the other work I get is off that photo no one liked. So the public maybe didn't care about it, but another creative who's hiring me is like, oh, I love what you did in this photo. And I'm like, you saw this photo? Like, I didn't even know you saw it. So I think I had to condition myself and change my thought process, because at first I was like, do I need more followers? Do I need more engagement? Like, do I want to do editorial? Do I want to do music? Do I want to do concerts? And then I was like, I just want to create stuff I really care about. And I think when I shifted that mentally, I stopped caring as much. And I started to like, I've always been someone to like integrate my personal life and brand with my art. So I don't have like a separate photography page. It's like, sometimes you're gonna get, you know, photos of like Adele or like J&B, and then you're gonna get me playing with my cat and like taking pictures of my friends and my mom. And you're gonna like, I want you to like it all. I don't want you to like one thing, so.
I think with me, it's you wanna take a census sometimes, but ultimately, everybody has the same basic emotion. You know what I mean? Whether it's fear, love, hate, envy, whatever. So if you're on those topics, it usually translates where you don't have to really see what everybody else is feeling or what they think. But then if it's an overwhelming response to a certain thing, then you might want to consider it.
Yeah.
And see what it is.
That's fair.
I do want to say though that I do feel like as people as a whole, because it's like we're creatives, but we're also the people consuming other content, right? So like I might be creative, but I'm consuming Jorge's content, or I'm consuming what's on the media. I do think that we have to be more intentional, and I think we have to be more mindful of what we put out, because people are like, you know, taking it in very rapidly, and like they're kind of being told what to think in some ways. I think there is a big group think overall on like what's hot, what's not, whether it's like a perspective, a style, you know, even like in photography, it's like film might be cool now. So it's like, let's push film more, or let's push this certain aesthetic because we're seeing it a lot. So I think you have to be mindful. Like for me, I like to promote joy because I think we see a lot of negativity. So I'm like, okay, I see this all the time. I don't want to see this. Like that might not be my story. So I just think that overall we should be a little more intentional, because I do feel like there is some control over what the masses are taking in and what they care about based on what we're putting out.
They did two things just there. He said, you know, it's like honesty is sort of his cornerstone, and Raven said joy. If you were to try to think of an attribute or a trait that's in your work, what would that be?
I mean, I probably have to agree with both, but authenticity is at the forefront of any creative's work. That's what it should be. And looking for the approval of other people, you know, should never be the thing that, you know, directs, you know, how you create in whatever medium you do, you know, your work in. I think that waters down what you're doing if you let other people or outside, you know, noise, you know, direct the stuff that you do. And you shouldn't be focused on trying to get the masses. I know that's just like a business incentive to want to encapsulate everybody and try to please everybody.
Yeah.
You know, people do that, you know, within their personal lives, trying to please everybody, and they burn themselves to the ground. Similarly, it translates as an artist. It should be the things that you like. And, you know, our team, you know, with Marathon, with Almanien, at the forefront of everything that we do, you know, and the philosophy was always there's riches and niches, you know?
That's good.
So, and we saw that in real time, you know, there'd be, you know, for example, when we do pop-up shops, our Proud to Pay pop-up shops, right? We'd go out of town and we'd be in New York or in a big city, right? And there'd be a line around the block, you know, 600-700 people, right? To contrast it, there'd be Louisville, right? And there'd be a smaller store that's not maybe as sexy of a boutique as a New York or Boston or a Miami store, right? That had this slew of people. And it might be 40 people, right? And so to the average eye, that might be like discouraging. You're like, man, you see a lot more value, you know, when there's a line of people, you think, you know, it's gonna be more lucrative, right? If you're doing a pop-up shop. But what we came to find out, you know, the Louisville store was just as valuable as the New York store, as the Boston store. Because sometimes those markets are underserved, or they're just more tapped in sometimes, right? And so what you make in New York and you make in Boston, with 500 people, you may make with 40 or 50 people. So for us, we don't rely on the idea of trying to like get everybody. We just got to do things the way that we like to do them, the way that, you know, is true to our personal, you know, integrity and the philosophies that we subscribe to. you know, and that's always worked out. And the same thing applies to what I do visually. You know, I mean, the thing that's exploited that idea the most, you know, you look at NFTs, right? Like that's really niche, you know? Like there may be, you know, celebrated artists that have been working for 30, 40, 50 years, breaking their back, trying to have that breakthrough moment and doing pretty well for themselves. And now there's some guy, you know, that's an artist that does motion graphics that was tapped into that world early, was an early adopter, and is breaking the bank.
How are you all at it, embracing these new trends, and do they change some of the things you're doing? Like, you think about graphic design, like, you know, it used to be a lot more difficult to even get from point A to B, and now kids are, you know, the way kids are embracing new platforms, new mediums, every kid understands Photoshop in a way that, like, I used to be like a genius by having this 10 years ago.
Sure.
Now it's not.
I think that's heavily relying on the idea of the democratization of technology and, you know, technology, both hardware and software being less expensive and being more accessible to more people.
I like the idea that kids know how to use Photoshop. Like I think
Sure.
I want my nephew to or my godson to learn Photoshop, to learn how to mix and do those things early. Like I had to learn at 19. Like think about how amazing you'd be if you were learning these things at 7 or 8 versus having to learn like
10.
when we learned.
It's with my sister, who was 9 years my elder. She majored in graphic design. And so I would just tag along with her to her classes. And that's where I soaked up the game, and I was, all right, this is interesting. And then my grandma blessed us. We went to Sears, you know, got the iMac, and it was like, oh shit, we have a Mac computer at the house? I said, all right, it's over. It's over. And then LimeWire was around, and you know, they sponsored my Photoshop and my Illustrator. And we were going.
So you brought up your grandma, so I'm gonna ask you, and you can pick your grandma, but you can add someone else in. Is there a person in your life who was like, or a person, or is there an event in your life, right? Not your breakthrough moment, but the moment where it's like, they blessed me, they looked out for me, they pushed me forward, this thing happened, and I can look back at that and tell that was a moment the light bulb went on.
Family first. You know, I think that's the foundation. If you're lucky enough, like you have grandmas, aunties, uncles, but grandma, parents, obviously my sister for letting me, you know, tag along. She could have just said, hey, stay at home. It's not like she was taking care of me. It was like she allowed me to go. Teachers, you know, my formative years, one in particular, Miss Manning, who I had for 3rd, 4th, and 6th grade. It seemed like she followed me, you know, and I got blessed. Then obviously professionally, you know, a bunch of different people, you know, Punch included, Top, you know, Kendrick, J-Rock, all of them, you know, trusting me with the projects early on and, you know, allowing me to participate, you know, in their success and in their vision. And then obviously, probably most notably, Nipsey, you know, for, you know, saying, hey, we're gonna collaborate and this is gonna be a long-standing thing, and going from, you know, helping him, you know, on his branding and his photography and telling his visual story, to then saying, hey, you're gonna be my tour manager. And I said, well, I have no experience, bro. Like this is like, I know for artists, it's a major play, you know, to do touring. I know you make money with music, but the touring, you know, is another bread and butter where you eat and you feed your family. And, you know, he gave me a lot of trust there. So, man, it's hard to say just one single person alone for myself personally.
Yeah.
I'd say business-wise, Top taught me the value of asking why.
In the arts and life, why is such an important question.
Yeah, because it requires thought on whoever you're dealing with. If they say you can't do this, why? Why can't I do it? Then they explain that, then you ask them why again. And you just keep going until you're able to do what you're trying to do.
Damn.
I feel like for me, it's like special because I feel like in the course of my career, living in New York my whole life, even moving here, but really like growing up in New York and my career being in New York, we all were coming up at the same time. So it's like a golden age of creatives.
I miss it a little bit.
Right? It's like really pretty and beautiful, but I think, and special, but I think that like, I love that when I have like an accomplishment, right? People that I know are like, I remember when. Like, I remember when you were here and we did this. I remember when you didn't have a pass to Summer Jam and I gave you a pass. You know, so I think all of the relationships I have are like the fundamental foundation to why I think I'm successful. Because I think that like relationships to some degree are a form of like cultural currency. And I feel like I have really good friendships for the last 30 years, and like those are the people that like inspire me and help me, and like it's not one breakthrough moment, and I don't ever think it's about the artist, because I think about like all the people that work with artists or with brands or with creatives that like are like, hey, I want to pitch you for this. Hey, you don't have a pass. You know what? I'm going to give you a pass. So like, I'm going to give you this tour pass to this because I think you should be here. I'm going to put you on tour. I'm going to have you be in this room. I believe in you. So I don't think it's like one breakthrough moment. I feel like my success is that I have really genuine, strong relationships with other creative people, and we all look out for each other. Like, my source of inspiration is my mom, because she's always allowed me to have like creative expression. And when I dropped out of school, she was like, all right, if you feel like we can do it, if we can survive, we can survive. Like, we were poor and she got me a camera, like she let me take out a loan, like all of those things. So she's obviously like the source of it, but I think overall for my career, the breakthrough is that I've figured out how to be a good friend. You know, I figured out how to show up for people, and so people show up for me, and I think that's kind of what keeps me going.
You said it's not one artist, but I am going to ask you guys about artistry. Is there a person you've worked with artistically that has taught you a lot about collaboration?
I say Terrence Martin, because that's his whole thing, is the collaboration.
Yeah.
Like, it take me back to Pimp a Butterfly. Was working on that album. He was the one gathering all of the different musicians to come in and play certain parts. Like, when we did the song For Free in particular, like, he had everybody in one room and all the instruments were mic'd up.
Yeah.
And he was like conducting the whole thing. Kendrick come in and, you know, lay his part. So it was all done in one room like they used to do, I mean, during the Motown days.
Yeah.
So like that's the ultimate form of collaborating.
What did you pick up from that? Is there something you picked up from that that's like you kind of kept it with you?
It's just the teamwork. You know what I mean? Everybody have a position. And if everybody play their part, the whole thing goes.
Yeah.
So that's just something you could take along outside of music. You could apply that to anything. You know what I mean? If you look around this room, what we doing, everybody has a part. I mean, certain cameras here, certain people in the background listening for sound. Everybody's job have to go right to make this whole thing go.
Yeah.
It sounds so biased, but I can't. Obviously, Nipsey taught me so much about collaboration. You know, on the visual branding end and everything that we've done. You know, for the clothing brand and for, you know, logos and photography. It's a lot of the communication. You know, like understanding how important communication is with artists, and especially as a photographer. You know, because sometimes photographers want a specific picture that they have in their mind. It has to also be a collaboration with your subject as well. Some artists will be willing to do what the photographer tells them and says, okay, I want you to pose like this, and I want you to look away into the horizon, and I want you to wear this. And they get dressed up by a stylist, they get put in a pose that's not natural to them, and then those photos come out and they don't even want to see them or share them, right?
Yeah.
So with him, he was always like, this is how I'm gonna dress, these are my poses, you know, this is how we're gonna rock, and this is how we're gonna do it. And so every time our communication was always very important, you know, and I was always conscious of that, you know, like, let's do something that you're gonna be proud of, and this is gonna be a moment for you too, because I don't just want it to be a moment for me. And then I remember watching like an old Annie Leibovitz interview where she was talking about photographing John and Yoko, right? And this was unfortunately moments before John Lennon was killed. She wanted to create a photograph of John and Yoko laying on the floor, like basically embracing each other. And he wanted John to be fully clothed and Yoko to be nude, right? To show like she's vulnerable, right? And this is the woman. And it was a time, you know, it's kind of like bohemic, you know, like hippie stuff, right?
Yeah.
Annie Leibovitz approaches Yoko and John with the idea, and Yoko wasn't really with it. She was like, nah, I like that. That's not really what I'm rocking with. So John was the one that was progressive and forward thinking. He ended up being the one that went nude in the photo, you know, to show he's comfortable with his woman, embraces her. And that was the collaboration part, because he's the one that took the initiative, right? That photo ultimately was probably one of the most iconic photos of Annie Leibovitz's work, and ended up being the cover photo with no text, other than maybe the Rolling Stone logo. That was a cover, you know, as like a memorial to John Lennon.
Yeah.
That month.
When you was talking about collaboration, like an artist like Nipsey knows exactly what he wants. You know what I mean? So it's up to JP to fall back, sorta, in his ideas and what he think for that collaboration to work. Then it's sometimes where the artists don't know. So then JP would have to go further.
You have to lead.
You know what I mean? And that's still the same collaboration.
Yeah.
I have two. It's like a double answer. So I think when it comes to like artists, I guess I'll use my most recent example. So I shot Roddy Ricch's album cover like 2 weeks ago from when we're filming this. And
Nice, congrats.
thank you.
Yeah,
and
that's dope.
thank you. But I think it was a real collaborative moment because one, he had already kind of knew what he wanted to do. And so when we were on set, it was more like, I approach everybody the same way. Like, I don't care who you are, if you're my subject, like it is always a collaboration. So I don't want you up here not doing what you want to do, and the only way this is going to be good is if I can create your vision. Unless I have a vision for you, and even still, I want you to like it and believe in it. So it was a lot of conversations on set in real time. Like, do you like this? Like, we had an iPad, we had a screen, like having him visually see it in the moment to be like, oh, I like this. You know what? No, let's do this. You know what? Let's move myself this way. I want to change my jacket. Those things, I think, for photography and collaborating are really important because then the artist walks away and they feel like they're really happy, and then it makes my job really easy. But for me, collaborating is really like, Ramya being my business manager and my friend has pushed me to have to really collaborate because she's like, you have to come up with things too, right? Like, you have to come to an artist sometimes and be like, this is a vision I have for you. This is what I want to show you. Like, we don't always know what we want or what we want to see. And so I think it's easier to go in with a plan sometimes that an artist can build off of.
Yeah.
And she's always like, because sometimes I hate making mood boards. And I'm like, well, I just want to hear what they want to do. And they're like, but what do you want to do, right? Like, there has to be a focal point to the collaboration. And the collaboration also, to some degree, it's like a win-win, but it's also like letting your ego aside of like a lose-lose.
I mean, you all are extremely established in your careers. You guys have understand elements of artistry, business, collaboration. But I think for anyone that's maybe trying to get started or trying to find their way, there's the concept of the more is made by many, right? Like, you guys have the ability to produce more people like you all. Do you all have any active advice you can offer to anyone that's watching this today? It's like, hey, I kind of want to do what they do, or maybe I don't want to do what they do, but I want to be in that same sphere. And it's something that you feel like is actionable.
You know, people ask me all the time, like, how do I, like, they DM me, like, how do I get in this room? I want to do this. And I'm like, what do you want to do? Like, if you want to shoot an artist, I don't know what to tell you. If you want to be a photographer and you want to learn about, like, apertures and speed and, like, subjects, I can help you. I can talk to you about it. I feel like my blueprint is unique to me, so I can't tell you how to be me, but I can tell you like the things I do to become a better version of myself that you can implement to become a better version of you. I think that like no one's blueprint is the same. Like, however Punch came up or however Jorge came up or however you came up, like that's unique to you, and like no one can follow that and become successful. I don't believe in that. But I think that like we can tell you like there's more money to be made, ask for more money, work on your craft, you know, be a good human being, care about your subjects. I can give you those tools, but I can't tell you how to be me. So my advice is always like, work on yourself, on being like your most authentic self and finding like, what's your vision? What's your story? Like, cause that, I mean, there's a million photographers. What makes us unique is who we are and what our stories are. So if you have a story and you want to tell that story and it's unique to you, I think you can be successful. But I think if you go into our creative industry trying to be like someone else, you're not going to be successful. And if you are successful, personally, I feel like it's going to be short-lived.
It's limited.
True. I would say you have to study your craft. Well, I guess first decide exactly what you want to do or about what you want to do, and then study the people who've done it. But don't study the result and who they are now. Study their struggle and how they came up. And you'll figure it out. You'll learn to implement that into what you're doing. Because like she said, nobody's story is the same. You know what I mean? So you just figure out, okay, I could take this from this person and this from that person. And then you implement that into your own movement.
Man, the first thing, first and foremost, is take initiative. You know, so many people are just waiting for the opportunity to knock on their door.
It's not gonna happen.
And hope
that
it
way.
falls
It
out of
could
the sky,
happen,
a
but it's
DM falls out of it.
Sometimes
Somewhere
it
they have a
happens.
nice Instagram photo and all of a sudden it just drops out of nowhere. You know, you gotta get off your couch and you bust your ass. You know, nothing beats working hard, you know. You have to work hard. Nothing is overnight. There's no overnight success unless you win the lottery. You know, and this is your first lottery ticket you purchased. Most people don't have that luck, right? That's an anomaly. Be ethical, you know, with the work that you do. You know, everybody that you don't trample over people. to get to where you want to be, because karma's a bitch. You don't want that. And like she said, it's gonna be short-lived. It's not gonna fulfill you the way it's supposed to. And take chances, man. This is not a practice life. This is real life. And you gotta just go, go for the gusto. And when you do get the opportunities, make sure you capitalize on them. And then when you do get where you wanna be, make sure you extend the olive branch.
Yeah, lift as you climb.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be one of us. I think that's the biggest thing, There can be a million of us doing the same thing. And I think that there's and when it comes to money, there is enough money to be made. So you don't have to worry, if I'm the only person, helping you is gonna take away from my pocket. I don't believe that.
It never really is like that. No. Thank you guys for joining me here. It's dope to have you all here at the table. I'm a fan of all your work in one way or another, whether I knew you personally or I'm just meeting you now. So I want to toast to this.
I'm gonna have to re-up.
Yeah, no, me too. It's
Cheers.
good. It's good stuff. Oh, there it is.